colours online.
Tell him why.
It's TELLE. But
Okay.
I love.
What is the? You're hilarious. What is? Okay, moi.
Do you know what? It's so funny. It's because everybody always says, "Oh, how do you pronounce that? Is that like tell-moi?" And I'm like, it's TELLE, but you know what? It's okay. Say it how you
What
want.
is okay? So,
I think what you said is very true, because I have heard people, so friends, for example, who have, not my friends, but people who have bought properties, their friends turn around and say to them, oh, you've done it. Do you know, oh, you're all right, you've got your property. Or they make it sound like it was so easy for them to get in the first place, and they don't appreciate the struggle that you went through. So how can they relate? How can you, I don't know, I suppose maybe these people were seeking something that is not there, really, because how can you empathise with someone who hasn't walked remotely in your shoes? But yeah, I get what you're saying about kind of respect.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's something that I've heard a lot. And I think also when I bought my property as well, like I was quite young. My friends were all still living their best lives. And, you know, in saying no and realistically being broke and all of those things, it was hard. And people don't always respect your boundaries because they don't understand it. And that's the thing.
They think it's easy.
They think it's easy. And when you're talking about the empathizing, like people don't necessarily empathize with you because they haven't gone through it. Yeah. Now we're at that age where they're all now going through it. They're like, you know, that's when you get the commendation. Well, yeah, that's when you get the commendation as well from people where they're like, oh, you know what, you really did a big thing, because it's hard. And a lot of people also do it now on top with partners and stuff like that. So obviously not taking away from, you know, buying somewhere with a partner, but it's just, I guess, if
the income is twice as much, the deposit, you know, if you're both saved and done what you need to do, it's going to be twice as much. And just even in terms of when you take on the mortgage and the responsibility, it's one thing to actually get the actual property itself. Even if like one person, you're a single person bought a property for 500, 700,000, whatever, you know, at the end of the day, the ongoing cost of running that home is a lot easier when you split it between two people. So let's not, you know, kind of go around the houses about the whole thing. Like it does make a very clear and obvious difference when it's two of you.
You get a lot more wiser, like you just naturally understand. And there's people who require a lot more in terms of a friendship than
mate, tell me about it.
Everyone experiences life. Life is something that you can't, I think you can't see it coming. You don't know what's going to be presented to you. You don't know how you're going to react to certain things in life. So it's nice to know that your friend is your friend and you can go to them. I appreciate what you're saying about, you know, not being a burden on someone.
No, you should. The thing is, you should be able to share if you're going through trials and tribulations. My God, like, you know, holla at a sister. You know what I mean? Call my phone. It's all right. We have that chat. You know what I mean? Go to Sexy Fish.
Like, but I don't know. I feel like to this point at this age, for me, it's like people saying, "Come out to this event," and I'm like, no.
And they still don't get it.
Yeah, don't get it. And I know that's like quite a remedial one, but it's just for the sense that that is life at the moment. Like sometimes if someone says no, or if someone says, I don't feel good, I don't want to come out. Like sometimes
it's no.
There's a level of understanding that, you know what, it's just I don't want to, and not having to explain. I think that's the other issue I have, is having to explain.
I stopped explaining myself years ago. I can't do it anymore. I can't. I said no. That's what it is. If you don't like it, sorry,
hey, it's straight up.
I can't help you.
Straight up.
Honestly.
Sorry about it. Sorry.
It's just because I'm typically like, it's not even that I'm a nice person, but it's just sometimes I'm a case of like, I feel guilty. And I'm like, why am I feel guilty? And I have to talk myself out of feeling guilty.
Yeah.
So,
no.
But on a real, that's number one.
Yeah. Boundaries. So yeah, I mean, in terms of friendship, that's really the main thing. For the most part, the friends I'm still friends with, you know, we have a great relationship, which is, you know, good. And I feel like as you get older, the dynamic of a relationship like changes. I guess obviously people have, like, for example, people that I was really close with back day, and I still am actually, they've now gone off and got married and had their kids and had their families, and I respect their boundaries. So I know that now that's their priority and that's what they need to do. I can't just say, let's go out, let's go do this.
Do you feel like some friends, I don't know if you guys have any friends who don't know that boundary, so they
that's why we're having this conversation.
They have a husband or a partner or whatever, and all of a sudden they become slightly distant to you guys as friends. Essentially,
is that not knowing a boundary? But I thought you were saying, okay, go on. Sorry, let you.
Do you know what? I think everyone has to make time for everyone. And I think that's the point. Like, it's nice to be absorbed in a relationship, and, you know, God knows I've been single properly for like, well, even though I've not been single, but you know what I mean, forever.
You're not really single.
Not really single, but it feels like I'm always alone. Like, I feel like, you know, when it's like you're like, when you live with someone at this age, like I feel like at this age you should have someone that you could just have regular sex with with certain friends. I mean, God, I can't, talking very personal here, I definitely had a friend cut off their relationship with me.
Oh, damn.
Hey,
what did you do?
It was pretty messed up. Like, I could have handled that situation way better.
At least you're honest.
No, I'll be honest.
So tell us, what did you do?
No, I can't even go to detail.
Or was it that messy?
Yeah, no, I can't. But
was it to do with their man? Were you dating
I
the same guy?
can't comment.
Okay, that means it was to do with the guy. It was definitely to do with the guy. Okay.
I am not.
Was he hot?
Can't comment on the situation, but
it was to do with the guy. You guys obviously like the same person.
Not really, but
okay, so it's to do with the guy.
No, anyway. What I will say is, no, I could have handled that situation better, and I have to, you know, look back at some of the things that I did. Although there was one particular thing that I did that I know that I definitely should have done, or I wish I could have taken back. The situation as a whole, I don't think it was looked at in the way that maybe it could have been looked at. Like, I think there was fault on both sides with regards to that. However, you know, when you kind of do something wrong, it's like you might have done everything else right, but because you did one thing
that stands
wrong,
out.
That will always stand out. And, you know, I can accept that was a mistake that I made.
And also, girl, when you're really close to somebody, when they do something wrong, it's all the more magnified.
But at the same time, I think I've also cut off some friendships. And I think I am someone, I don't ever believe realistically in cutting people off. Like, I've had to learn how to do it, because I've always been very like, as long as someone's not dead, there's always a chance for revival of something, or at least a revival of, you know, genuine okayness between someone. Like, you know, you might not speak every day, but if I see you at the party, I can still say hello to you.
Yeah, it's never that serious.
It shouldn't be that serious. But on the other side of things, I think I understand now the importance of cutting people off, and cutting people off immediately, because something that I've done that I can be completely honest with, you know, there's people I should have cut off, and then I don't cut them off, and then I forgive them, and then we kind of end up in this kind of space. Yeah, where it's like, I've forgiven you, but I still kind of hold some things against you, or I'm scared that you're going to do those same things again. And then with that, it's kind of like, it's never the same. I should just distance myself. So then we kind of have that awkward distance where I don't hate you, and we might speak from time to time.
You're protecting your energy, innit?
Yeah. And
like, I think sometimes it is necessary to cut people off, not because, I guess, it's not even because they're a bad person or you're a bad person. It's just maybe you're two different people at that point, or you've grown apart, or you're going in two different directions, and it's mutually beneficial to do so.
Yeah.
And I never want to be so arrogant to think that, you know, I cut them off because they're no good and they're rubbish and their life is a mess or whatever. I just feel like we no longer complement each other. And I think maybe it's not to say that maybe down the line you may not be friends again, but just right now where we are in life, it's just not working. And again, that doesn't only apply to relationships. I mean, friendships, sorry, it also applies to relationships.
Depends what sort of workplace you're in, but when you are sort of in a minority workplace, you can be quite susceptible to and identify easily where things won't necessarily sit right with you. Therefore, you intentionally or not, set out to keep an arm's length from particular people, not because you want to, but maybe because of, going back to energy, self-preservation, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you could, you know, paint yourself in a negative light. Yeah. Therefore, just for peace sake, and let's understand we're here to make money, yeah. So, you know, give me my check and let me go.
Yeah.
But I see that kind of relationship played out very well at the workplace, and it's almost like when we come together, it's almost like we let our hair down, and it's like, okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, I see you, sort of thing.
No, it's all the same thing. When I see a sister or a brother in the workplace, I'm like, thank you, Jesus. I'm like,
you don't have to explain yourself.
Thank you. I don't have to kind of break myself down. Like, you just get me, which is great. And it's not to say that every black person will get you, but for the most part, they do, from experience.
Even if they don't show it.
They do. Even the ones, mate, I've even had those ones who are like toffs, like, you know what I mean? The bounties.
Coons,
and then when they leave the presence of the white man, that's what they close one. But yeah, I mean, like in the workplace, I think you're forced to obviously forge relationships, and even if you have a breakdown in communication, you have to kind of figure out a way to make those relationships work, because of course it's your bread and butter, and you can't really jeopardize your livelihood, right? But I think in the workplace, I try never to. I mean, I have had some really some long-term relationships from a workplace, but generally I don't try and forge like personal relationships because of course if you have a falling out and you're in the same working environment, it can jeopardize a lot of things, right? So I don't necessarily have those friendships, but I will say that I have had situations like encounters in the workplace where I've maybe had a disagreement with an altercation, maybe taken the high road. I think I told you about this one time when we were coming from TELLE's festival, like modelling thing. And I was like, I had a situation. I just chose not to really speak to her or communicate with her. And someone might say it's petty, but because I know my temperament and I know there's only so much I can take, I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm vulnerable and I can fly off the handle and I'll look like a hot mess. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather just leave that situation altogether.
But also, sometimes I find that some people will react a certain way and then get labelled, for example, aggressive.
If you are black and you're in a corporate environment, I'd strongly encourage you not to get into any altercations or like heated arguments, debates or anything like that in the workplace, just because you will be labelled, more than likely will be labelled as aggressive, combative, difficult to work with, all of the above. Do you know what I mean? So like, if you can,
and they'll be less forgiving as well.
And they'll be our white counterparts. If they are to be upset, throw a strop, they are having a bad day in the office. It's been really stressful at home.
And the thing is, their stress is not our stress,
Yeah,
that's
and yeah,
they go through.
Yeah, I know. This is it. Yeah, that's what I mean. My cake overcooked. Very minor things. We're gonna have to redact this, by the way, Mash. We're gonna have to make some redactions. But in any case, like for them, it's a bad day in the office. For you are aggressive, inherently aggressive. That's you by nature. You have no self-control, no self-restraint. And you are animalistic by nature and you need help. So yeah, I would refrain from having any arguments in the office. If there's any very polarizing debates happening in the office, maybe refrain from getting involved in those, just saying. I think as black people, maybe until we're in an establishment that's founded by us, run by us, and we are the majority, I don't feel like we can be at liberty to be completely and truly ourselves. It doesn't even matter how it came about or the circumstances in which it happened. You just always look unprofessional. There's never a winner in an argument, especially when it's in a working environment. So yeah, let's just leave that all alone. You know what I mean? Just take the high road.
I think with work, I think I used to work in an environment that was a little bit more corporate, even though there was still people I got on with. Now it's not as bad. There's still obviously corporate-ness around, so there's obviously that aspect of it. But I think this sounds really bad actually, but for me, I just always find comfortability with other black people, and I know it sounds really,
of course,
there's a level, because there's also white people who are just lovely and are kind of really,
even if you don't talk
reasonable.
Much, do you know what I mean?
Even just seeing you there makes me happy.
Yeah, it's just numbing, and
makes
also sometimes you can just feel like you can be yourself a bit more, and you won't be judged in a certain way. And I think that's really underestimated in the work environment sometimes, because I don't know, I think a lot of people are like, but you've grown up around everybody or different races, so why do you feel necessarily uncomfortable? But it's just that whole conversation that you can have where you don't have to explain anything, and I think that's also the other part. You don't have to continually explain who you are, why you like what you like, and so on.
Because even if that black person does front and act like they're not from the same community or whatever, when they go home, they are 100% from there, and they definitely know where they're coming from. And especially in this certainly our generation, if you're around 30, the age group of sort of 25 plus, your parents or whatever household you grew up, most definitely wasn't what you would give your children, and you definitely probably are more in touch, more sort of closely interlinked to your native sort of country or whatever. So I think I agree with you about sort of having that sort of comfortability, and just nice to know that you don't have to explain yourself, even if you see the odd sort of colleague that doesn't want to sort of kiki with you.
The conversation I would probably have is probably around when it comes to when you meet somebody and you want to do things in a certain order. So for me, for example, it's I don't mind moving in with somebody, but I want to get married before I have kids. So for me, that's like a very real, situation. There's a lot of reason behind it. Everyone has their different reasons for everything. But for me personally, it just seems to make the most sense. I have no issues living with you, but I want to get married, and I want to get married before I have kids, because I also feel like, and the reason for that, for me personally, is that I know that I'm the kind of person that I'm frivolous. Like, I'm frivolous? That's what I'm looking for. Frugal. Sorry, not frivolous. I'm frugal. I don't like to spend money. So the opposite. Yeah. So I'm not going to spend 20k on a wedding if I know I've got a child. I would probably not even spend 10k on a wedding if I know I have a child. Like, I'm more likely to go down to the courthouse, just sign a certificate, have a massive party, instead of actually spending that kind of money if I have a child, because that's my priority. That's where my money's going to go.
Absolutely.
So for me, it's like, and even then, even if I didn't have a child, I would still be like, 10k is like another property. Why would we just
unless
not
you've
get
got
a
it like
bigger
that.
house? Yeah, unless someone else really wants to fund it, then I'm like that. So that's why, that's my opinion. But then there are some other people who will go through situations and feel like, if I know you're the person I'm going to be with for the rest of my life, why wouldn't I have a child with you right now? Because actually that's a bigger commitment than marriage. And I feel like sometimes people, obviously, a lot of guys will sometimes explain it away and be like, obviously having a child with you is a bigger commitment than marrying you.
Is
like,
it?
I disagree.
Some
I know a lot of
people
single
will say
mothers out
that.
here.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying, and I don't see it like that, but a lot of guys apparently do see it like that, because they know that if you actually have a child with someone, you're tied together for the rest of your life until one of you dies,
really.
basically.
No.
Usually,
I
not
know people
always.
that have never seen their dads.
Severed.
I know some people who have never seen their dads, so
It's true.
just saying.
It's true. So this is where I'm like, if you care about someone, why would you just not care about? So it's not about care, but why is marriage such a taboo subject?
If you're comfortable to have a
sometimes?
kid with me, why won't you marry me?
That's my real question.
Are you sick?
That is my question, and that is an example of a situation that's potentially quite close to me, without saying it's close to me.
It's like a guy who will say to you, he wants to sleep with you bareback, but he's too scared of a relationship. How?
Yeah, and this is
Like,
what I mean.
how? Please
makes
tell
no
me, break
sense.
it down. I want to understand.
So that's
You're ready to
like-
catch HIV, but you're not ready to, you know what I mean?
But this is it, and
Behave yourself.
I can't understand the logic behind that, and I don't know. There's a lot of conversation around that, but apart from that, just be out here, just meeting, talking to new people.
See, I feel like,
Yeah, tell me.
I think I've mentioned this before. So obviously I'm not an advocate for 21st century marriage.
Can you imagine?
No, honestly, because I just don't feel like, I don't know, I just feel like it's just it's so expensive, and if you haven't got a property together, what are you doing?
Okay, what if you do have a property together?
Get another one.
Are you alright?
Get another one. Why?
And what, don't get married?
I don't know, I just feel like it's just an expense that I don't really want to pay out
You're
for.
thinking about the party. The actual getting married is not that expensive.
This is it.
Going to the courthouse is light work.
This is true,
I'm
but
down
I
for the
think if you're going to
courthouse.
get married, you may as well have the full whack.
Really?
Yeah,
This is where I'm
definitely.
against it, because I'm just kind of like,
But
okay,
what's the
the
point
full
of
work,
getting married then? What is the benefit of getting married? Why?
it is illegal. Like,
Sorry,
it's the
you
fact,
work in law. Are you
Why?
for real right now?
Yeah,
there's legal
Why?
benefits to
You
being
have
married,
property.
tax benefits, and on top of that, I will have the same surname as my child.
Did you know that the rate of divorce
It's
is
over
higher
50%,
than
we
the
know,
rate of
yeah.
marriage? Did you
We've
know
heard
that?
it. We don't care.
Did you know?
I'm gonna beat the odds.
And can I just say,
All I know is when I go
Did
to
you
the
know?
doctors and they're like, Mrs. What's it called? I'm gonna have the same surname as my child. Like, I don't want to have to sign a consent letter every time I need to take my child.
Okay,
on
so
a
when you
plane.
take an
I feel like
exam,
when you have a family, if you have a child, that's more of a reason to get married, because I
Yes.
get the whole family element to it. But if that's not the intention, why?
okay, T. So
Why
what?
not
Like,
just be
okay,
together?
so you're
Why
now
not?
doing your law thing, right?
Yeah.
So if they tell you that you have a 50% chance of failing, you're not going to take the exam.
I will take the exam. Sorry, yeah.
Thank you. You are going to take the exam.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So the same way, yeah, I want to get married. Okay, 50% of it failing, it is what it is. Like, I'll still get married. Same way.
Yeah, I hear that, but it's probably more expensive to get a divorce than it is to get married. And I find that a lot of
depends
people.
what kind of wedding you have.
I feel like it's a lot easier to walk away.
And
when
not
you're
everybody has
married.
assets out here. You're assuming that you're going to be
Well,
marrying a multi-millionaire.
Well, boy,
You know what I mean? You might even inherit debts. So
sorry,
you might be marrying into debt.
Sorry,
not
that's
even
not my
marrying
portion.
into assets.
That's not my portion. But
in Jesus' name, amen.
amen.
No, well, this is what I'm saying. Like,
But then why would you do that? Doesn't even make sense to me in itself.
Come on, like as if we all marry for what's on the balance book, like balance sheet.
No, but
like we all marry.
You're gonna marry someone with debt.
You don't always know this up front. People don't always divulge to you what their financial situation is.
Give me your credit.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know though. Somebody could be knee deep in debt and you don't realize it until you're in. Like they might have just taken a loan out today. You get married to them next month, and then 2 years down the line they're in a sticky situation financially. Just things you can't predict. These things, they happen. But I mean, fundamentally, I think marriage is. I guess it's a secure way to have a family, which for me is the most important thing because I want to have kids, right? I want to have a kid just out here, baby mother.
No, I get that.
I mean, that's not for me. That's not my portion.
I get
in
that
life.
Completely. But that's the only reason why I
absolutely. There's no other reason. I'll be honest with you.
No other reason. Okay,
fine.
Fair enough.
Listen, I'll be honest with you. If I was just out here on my ones and I just wanted to, just live life and just fuck niggas. Do you know what I mean? Or just, have guys. It's not a problem. Like, who am I getting married for? What reason? Who am I latching myself, entangling myself with somebody for the rest of my life? Yeah. For what? For dick? No. Like, I want to have a marriage because I want to have children. Okay. It's to facilitate my like to have my kids. Blended families are a real thing out here. But if I could avoid it.
Yeah, I'll get that completely.
I think the traditional way of doing things is probably the best way, personally. Yeah, unless somebody can show me otherwise.
I agree. And do you know what it is? I think it's because I've seen it happen on both ways. Like,
blended.
Well, yeah, blended, and I've also seen people do things in completely different orders.
And just stability. I think that's the main word I'm looking for here. Like, you want to do that within the institution of marriage. You don't want to just do that as a baby mother or as the ex-partner who is now trying to kind of blend the family with his new wife and their new kids and everything. You'd rather just do it straight from the jump. Like there's a reason why they say prevention is better than cure. Why try and remedy a situation when you can just get it right from the beginning? The right way to do it is if you can find somebody that you are on the same page with and and forge a relationship with, and it work out. That's the best way to do it. Why have it break down and go back and do trials with other people here, there, and everywhere? There's no need for that. What I'm saying is, like, you can always be happier. You know what I mean? You can always find a better dress. You can always find a better house. You can always find a better anything. But you find what you have and you work with it and you try and build on whatever it is you like. Everyone has their flaws. Everyone has their issues. Whatever your flaws are, we work within those flaws. I'm not going to say, okay, you fucked up here. Bye. I'm going to find something else. I will try and work with you with what you have, provided they're not like deal breakers. And that's why I feel like people shouldn't jump into relationships prematurely. You should really find out, first of all, who you are, which is very important. So maybe don't get into any long-term relationships too early in life. And then when you do get into long-term relationships, like make sure you're entering into a relationship with somebody that you have core values with. Whether it, for example, your religion might be a core value of yours, or how you raise your kids, or where you live, or the kind of principles in which you run your home will be your core values. And provided you agree on those main things, there might be small things like he leaves his socks out, or maybe he spends a bit too much time with his friends, on rugby night, or whatever. There's small things that you can kind of say, okay, I can work within that because everybody's flawed to you, right? But I think the main things have to be solid, personally. And I think happiness, like I keep on saying, there's actually a guy I listen to, I think I might have mentioned him previously. His name is called Jordan Peterson. And I don't agree with everything he says, but I do feel like in life, like there should be more of an emphasis on responsibility and actually contributing to society, and not just all about happiness, all about me. Like that's just ridiculous.
So you mean like instead of taking away, so the way I understand that is not having a level of selfishness that you're just kind of seeking to please yourself only, basically, because I guess in a relationship, you're right, you have to make...
It's give and take.
It's compromise. It's absolutely compromise. But I think there's always going to be a level for somebody who you can compromise, but you can't compromise everything. And it might not necessarily be deal breakers, but you just can't compromise on everything. Like, if I know that for me to feel personally happy, I need to have someone communicate at least once a day, then I can't compromise on that. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, because you can meet someone who maybe who makes you feel...
But is a deal breaker if it breaks your relationship?
Well, not necessarily, because you can have someone who meets that everything else in your relationship, but doesn't meet the communication thing. So then your responsibility is you're not going to be happy with the communication situation every single day, but because you love that person, you push through it to make it work. So you're right, you take responsibility, but there's still a level of happiness that you have to have from everything else that supports that point, because ultimately relationships are always selfish anyway. Like, no one goes into a relationship for the other person. Everyone goes in.
You go into it for yourself,
for your own needs
and for your sanity and everything else. But I mean,
and your happiness.
I think
If someone doesn't make you come on, Kay,
I don't
seriously,
believe in that, sorry.
you don't believe in happiness.
I believe in happiness. I don't believe that you should go into relationships for your happiness. Only
Not
for your
happiness.
You should have
because
your
you
own
can't put
happiness
your happiness in
someone
someone's
else.
hands. No, of course not.
Your happiness is to do yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first and foremost.
But
You're
if they're
responsible for
your
own
better
fulfillment.
half, if they're your partner, if they're your, you know, your left ring, your left rib or whatever, then surely they should be making you happy.
But yeah. But yeah, I get it. Yeah. Babe, I feel you. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, I feel like too much of an emphasis is put on happiness and feeling good. And I feel like even in our generation, or this generation in general, like, everyone just has an obsession with feeling good. Like, life is not about feeling good. It's about responsibility, not just to yourself, but to your community. And I think it's also about giving and contributing. And it's like...
But you have to understand, when you take care of your responsibility, that translates to happiness. That will make you feel happy.
Why it has been the foundation of society for such a long time. And I know that now we're kind of looking at unconventional ways of having relationships. Like
that time when you first meet someone, it was all honeymoon. Like, it was honeymoon until he started fucking up, in my opinion. But
so why didn't you stay with him?
I didn't.
Oh,
happiness, remember?
Yeah.
Well, that's my vibe. That's my.
No,
thing.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm like,
happened. Like,
happiness.
What's your thing? Because I agree with you. You know,
Yeah.
leave him straight because your happiness is key.
And I did, but then I think what then happens is that the other issue that and this sounds so like, because I was thinking about this the other day, like, no one ever wants to feel like they're settling, but at the same time, when you go out there sometimes and look at the other options that are out there, sometimes you are like running back to your first option to be like, bruh, I'm scared. I'm scared.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. The options out there are scary.
They are. And then it's kind of like, okay, do you try and make it work with someone who just needs a bit of teaching, or do you actually go out and find something new with somebody? And it's like, people will love to tell you, it's fine, you'll meet someone this or that, but everyone has their issues and everyone has their problems. And it's like, there is a level of what is settling and what is accepting that people are going to change and need time as well. And that's the problem I have. And, you know, that's the line that I'm crossing at the moment. Like, I don't know if this person is...
But do you ever think to yourself, and just to play devil's advocate here, like, do you ever think to yourself, maybe he's settling?
Yeah, do you know what I also think as well? That there is also a level of people finding what's more right for them. Sometimes you're trying to forge something to work when you're two very, very different people who have two very different ways of doing things. And there are people out there who will do things the way you want to do them. You just don't know when you're going to meet them, and I think that's the problem. And when you put other pressures on, like, if you are wanting to have kids as soon as possible, if you are wanting to get married, these are all the other kind of pressures that will take away from a decision, because you might really love someone but they don't believe in marriage and you do, or they don't want to have kids and you do. Those are the kind of major life decisions that, regardless of how you put effort in and try and make things work, that will ultimately just break you, because you're going to have to sacrifice something that you truly want, and you don't know if that's a compromise that you can actually take. So, you know, and then a lot of people, like, I was reading this Twitter post, which was kind of asking men and women, do you feel like you've settled in your relationship? And some of the stuff you read is heartbreaking. It's shocking, because
it's true.
so many times,
you girls, your happiness is key, man. Honestly, your happiness is key. Paramount.
It is, because some people will fully get married, and, you know, they'll do it because the pressure's on them. They feel like they can't find anybody else, and then, you know,
biological clocks ticking.
And these times, then you're like 40 with 2 kids with a man who's probably going to divorce you because he doesn't love you.
You kiss your teeth every morning. You're pissed off.
Stressed.
I'm telling you, and that's not a way to live life either. And that's why, as long as you're happy within yourself, then, you know, you can realise that you deserve better, or you deserve to be happy on your own. And I think that's the other side of it. So I guess if someone's not adding to your happiness, and when I mean adding to it, I mean not making you happy, but adding to your current state of happiness, and not causing you stress, not causing you too much stress, or causing you too much work, then that's the place you want to be at. But it's hard. It's hard out.